Hello, beautiful people. My name is Kira, aka Words by Kira. And in this really special episode, we have Nikiya Mathis. She is a professional actress. She also is very passionate about hair, and we are going to get to know her. I make videos about self-love and also connecting with others through interviews to hopefully lead to a better life. If you like content like that, then definitely hit the bottom right subscribe button. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, Miss Nikiya, I'm so excited to have you on the channel. Can you please just tell the viewers a little bit about you and what got you into acting?
Oh my gosh. So I'm from Jersey. I used to write poetry and ultimately like my English teacher, when I wrote a poem, she was like, oh my gosh, this is good. So she submitted it to be published when I was in like the eighth grade. And then she said, oh, you need to see the drama teacher. She just, I guess, assumed that like I would be good at performing, but I was really just a writer. So she sent me to the drama teacher. I just like joined the drama club, and then she had me do a competition to recite poetry, and I was terrible. I started crying, like it was just bad. So I was like, I don't know why you think I can do this, but she didn't let me stop, which is so interesting and amazing. And I continued like into high school doing these competitions, speech debate competitions. And I would start to win. Like I was doing the categories of, dramatic interpretation, poetry interpretation, like all of those, like prose, just like just delivering poetry, delivering speeches, doing plays. And I started like going from like placing last to like placing first in like the state or the nation. Like it was amazing like what the trajectory was, because she didn't let me stop, and I started to like it, and people started to say, oh, you're good at that thing. And when I was on stage or when I was in the moment, I felt at home. Like there was like this vibe, this energy that I had never felt before. Because before that, I just thought I was gonna. My dad said you should be a lawyer, growing up. So I was like, oh, okay, that's what I'm gonna be, because I didn't know anything else. Until I started acting. Like even when I was writing poetry, I didn't know that I wanted to be a writer. It was just something that I did. But yeah, when I started to feel the at home feeling of acting, that's ultimately how it started. And then the next step after high school was, oh, you go to college and you major. So that's what I did. So I went to Temple University undergrad, and like did my first professional show in Philadelphia. And then after that, like fast forward to I got a master's of fine arts at NYU Tisch School of the Arts. So yeah, like that was my start.
Oh, that is so inspiring. I love the fact that you started off with writing and poetry, and then
Mhm.
through your mentor, your teacher, you started performing, and then you learned that you love performing. Like, it's so cool how they can go hand in hand, like the writing and then performing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it was like God was like it's just sprinkling things in my spirit. Like even in terms of the writing, that just kind of happened like when I was in, I think maybe fifth grade, like my teacher had me, we did an assignment, and for the assignment we had to write a poem. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, there's this thing. I mean, and of course, not of course, but it was, I guess, better than my teacher assumed it would be. So she didn't think I had actually written the poem, which was shenanigans. But
Oh,
I think
wow.
I know. But listen, little black girls, what they go through, the battle. Um, so that's why it's important to then have other teachers who say, instead of saying, oh, you're not good enough, or if they see some level of talent, not thinking, oh, because you're from I was poor. Like my mother didn't have a lot of money. Like I went to an inner city school. It was a gifted and talented program in Newark, New Jersey, but like I didn't have much. So, it was a white teacher. I guess I don't know if maybe I hadn't been performing in the way she assumed that one would be able to perform to be able to write something like this. But I don't know that I had ever been challenged in that way. I don't know that anybody ever said, yeah, Say,
Yeah, it's hard
hey,
to know what someone's capable of when they're just starting it for the first time.
exactly,
Let me
exactly.
let me shine.
Totally. Yeah, I wasn't good at math. That was not the thing for me. So, but then, but I think that's the thing about like, the educational system is tricky because like it's not necessarily designed for us to necessarily succeed and grow in the gifts that are innate to us. It's designed for us to pass a test. But
Yeah.
what about those kids that are not great in these specific subjects, but they have another way of learning? Like I think that is it's amazing when you have a teacher who can recognize that and is not trying to like measure you by some standards that are not even um that are not true measures of talent. So like, there have been angels. And I feel like my teachers, like my English teacher, who was also a white woman, like this is not to say that, but thank God I had her, who then introduced me to the drama teacher who was a Black woman. Like, but both of them were angels in my life. And I think even the fifth grade teacher, maybe that was a blessing as well, for me, because I think it taught me something because it wasn't because I didn't plagiarize. It was like, oh, you think it's that good? Like you thought like I didn't copy off anybody. Oh, like I don't if that had not happened, I don't know that I would have even realized that maybe that there was something there. So, I think God works in mysterious ways sometimes.
Definitely. And thank God that didn't like discourage you.
I
Wow.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. Totally.
I love the fact that you started the conversation speaking about like education and how you had
Mhm.
angels in your life that got you to this point, and the fact that you even have your MFA from Tisch.
Yeah.
So something so amazing to be proud of. So for
Thank you.
people, of course. So for people that are interested in like acting, I'm sure hopefully they're watching this video right now. What kind of advice would you give to them? Because you've been in like Snowfall, The Blacklist, like your IMDb's popping, Nikiya. Like I really love it. It's popping.
You're hilarious.
Thank you. What advice would you give to them of how to kind of break into the industry?
You know what? I feel like the industry, and I think the world in general is all about relationships. Like, you can go to a school or you can get training or you can do an audition potentially, like all of that is fine. But ultimately, I feel like, especially for young actors, finding a mentor or finding somebody that has some level of access or understanding or knowledge of that world. Now, the tricky thing is you may not know anybody who does. So if you don't, then you want to go to a school. Like, I don't, my drama teacher didn't necessarily have access to anybody, let's say famous or anybody really in the industry, but she knew she could help guide me and say, hey, think about these schools maybe. So, that was the next step for me because I didn't know um, what a casting director was really, or an agent was. So it was like, oh, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be trained in it.
Mm.
Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who acts has to go to school for it, because you could also learn on the job. But okay, if you're going to learn on the job, then you want to, Google what are the theaters in the area, or what are who is casting what, like, or even go into like, so universities like NYU or film schools in New York or around the country, what student films are happening. See, look up those castings, see if you can like audition for a student film, because the students who are filmmakers are going to be the next professional filmmakers. So that's helpful. But for me, I know, and everybody's journey is different. But for me, it was school. Like, let me go to a school who does this because they're going to know more. So it went from, okay, my drama teacher knew something and could guide me up until this point. Now I'm going to go to the next step, which was a university. But real talk, I remember auditioning for two schools. I knew Rutgers, Mason Gross was a performing arts school. And at the time, I thought that, oh, it was amazing because that's all I knew. And then NYU undergrad. So I applied to NYU, Mason Gross at Rutgers, and then Temple. My guidance counselor said, just do that as a backup. But I didn't think I needed a backup because I was gonna go to one of those other schools, okay? Didn't get into Mason Gross or NYU undergrad out of high school. And I was crushed because I thought that that meant that I wasn't good enough, that imposter syndrome, which sometimes we have to overcome. So the only option I had was going to Temple. And I only did that because my guidance counselor said you needed a backup. But I promise you, it was like the best thing ever. It was the place that I needed to be. But back then I didn't know that. But what I learned from that is that sometimes rejection is direction. And sometimes rejection is protection, because actually, in retrospect, now that I'm a professional actor and on the other side of it, I'm like, oh, now that I know more about those programs, I'm like, oh, those places weren't where I needed to be. Not that they weren't great for somebody else, but when I went to Temple, so Mason Gross School of the, that's a BFA, so Bachelor of the Fine Arts. It's a conservatory. So what you do all your time really is spent training in acting. Of course, you have other classes, but it's a really intense program. And, in the NYU undergrad would have been as well. But at Temple, it was a BA. So I could actually major in anything. Like I could take any kind of theater classes that I wanted, but I also was able to minor in African American studies. Like I wouldn't have done that at those other schools. So I got like such a broader education. And I felt like that, I think in retrospect, that was so much more important. And I also did my first professional show at Temple, well, in Philadelphia there, which I probably wouldn't have been able to do at a conservatory. Like I got some real world experience. And then, so when I got out of Temple, I realized I still wanted some more foundational training because again, like that was a BA. It wasn't an intense program. So that's when I auditioned for NYU and ultimately, and real talk, I auditioned for NYU and Yale because those were the top programs. And actually, I went to, I auditioned for some other programs through this program called ERDAs. That's another thing. It's the University Regional Theater Auditions that you can audition for. So it's a bunch of schools, a bunch of acting schools that you can audition for at one time. And actually, so that was for my MFA. And Rutgers was one of the schools that wanted me then after college. But I actually had my sights set on either Yale or NYU at that point. So I decided I didn't want to do that, like after that. So I auditioned for NYU and Yale, got called back to both of those programs, but didn't get in. Bum, 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 bum. Now, listen, now what do I do? Like this was really setting me up for what the profession was. Like you can get really close to things, but then it goes to somebody else. And it's a question of, are you going to decide that that means that you're not good enough, or that means that that's not for you right now? And really, the truth is all you need is one yes. So when I got out, I was a substitute teacher. My mom was a teacher at a school. So it was like, okay, well, I'll substitute because that's a good job potentially. And then I did this educational touring program. But I promise you, child, when I was a substitute teacher, I had this kindergarten class that made me quit substitute teaching. Now these kindergartners drove me out of the school. So, but again, like there was this like one little boy that, he clearly had issues, emotional issues, clearly problems at home. The school wasn't giving me the support that I needed as a young teacher. So I ended up like not substitute teaching there anymore. I did continue. I was like, okay, maybe kindergarten is not for me. I went to high school. Exactly. I don't know if I can do that. But again, like it was like, oh, okay. So there was something, I think God was not allowing me to just remain content where I was. I think if substitute teaching, right, had been like a gift, I was making money, I might have been like, okay, well, I feel comfortable here, so I'm going to stay here. I can be a teacher, right? Because my mom was, so I knew that was a good backup plan. But God, I think, didn't allow me to just remain settled. And even the educational touring company, like it was cool, but it was hard and it was not the thing that I really wanted to do. I wanted to be in, professional shows. So I decided at the end of that year to audition again, and I got into NYU. But the reason I think I got in was because I understood why I was going. I think before I was going because I just didn't know what else to do. Like I wasn't prepared to just go and just pursue acting. I mean, even though I was auditioning, but there still was a level of me not knowing quite how to do it and still wanting some more training and some more confidence. So I ended up getting into NYU, and I was like, oh, I totally understand it now. It's like when you're going through it and you're getting rejected, it's like, well, why? What is this about? Sometimes it's not until you're on the other side of it that you realize, oh, I had to go down that path because it kind of actually made me stronger and made me understand what I was getting into. So yeah.
Ooh, thank you so much for being so transparent. Like that story is so relatable about, getting rejected at certain times because maybe you're just not ready yet or the timing is off. And the fact that you also mentioned like not being comfortable in the alternative paths and realizing like, no, this is for me. It just wasn't the time that I'm going to keep going
Exactly.
for. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting because I think sometimes like I think even now, like there is a search for purpose in my life. And like sometimes I'm like, okay, am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be doing this at this time? But it's also kind of like when there is something that you can't get out of your spirit, when it's like, oh, it keeps coming back to you, like maybe that means that that is the thing you're supposed to be doing. Especially, if it's a positive thing and it's gonna lift, or help somebody or, just make it, if it's not, you're not like selling drugs or nothing, like you're actually doing something that might be good for the community. Maybe it is the thing to do. And I think sometimes our fears or, confusion will stop us from doing the thing, but there is no harm in reaching out or taking a step out or saying, okay, let me look up schools that might be good and let me just audition. If I don't get in, I don't get in. That might tell me something.
Yeah.
But why not just take the step and do it? Yeah. So that's what I would definitely tell young aspiring actors. And like if you find somebody that is doing or is going in a similar direction, don't be ashamed to reach out and kind of ask them or like seek mentorship like in some type of way. So yeah.
Thank you. So I know you've done like multiple roles, and I was just really curious, like, are there any, or is there any one particular role that really stands out to you that you've done that really like touched you?
Yeah. So there's a play called Skeleton Crew that I did off Broadway. The playwright is Dominique Morisseau, who is a screenwriter. She writes on the TV show Shameless, and just she writes other shows. And her show was on Broadway about the Temptations. And I'm trying to, what is the why is the name escaping me now? But either way, it'll probably be back on Broadway after the pandemic is over. But she's a great writer. But it's a play called Skeleton Crew, which I originated the role. We did workshops of it, and then when it came to New York, I did it as well. But the character is Shanita, and it's about four workers in Detroit in 2008 in an auto plant. So this is the decline of the automotive industry in 2008. And this is a character. She's a young girl, pregnant, but one of the best people at her job. So ultimately, Dominique wrote this role. Well, I don't. Part of the reason why she wrote this role feels like it was to kind of reframe how we look at Black women, right? Because you might see a young Black girl pregnant, pushing a baby carriage and assume she's on welfare, ain't got no baby daddy, lives in the projects, all of this stuff. But what you don't know is actually she's a number one worker in her industry, right? That she has the same goals and hopes and dreams as anybody else. Or, you might not look at that white girl. You look at the white girl walking down the street, pregnant, young, and assume, oh, she's just a young mom. I
Mhm.
bet her parents, she's doing good for herself. But why are you looking at the black girl, with this gaze? So I really love that role. It's actually going to Broadway, I think in 2022. But the role is beautiful in that it just kind of like turns on its head, like the stereotypes of who we are. And sometimes we do get to make a mistake, but that doesn't mean that as Black people, we don't still want the American dream. That doesn't mean as, workers, we don't, desire to like move up in the world or have families or want to like repair mistakes that we've had. So like that role is really beautiful. Also, just because like Shanita is like also just like a dreamer. She is going through a tumultuous time with her child's father, but she's still coming to work every day. She's still picking out baby names, wanting to have some peace and quiet for her baby, trying to maintain some self-care. So like there are these things that she's battling, but still she's like this mom that's still trying to figure out how to make the best life for her and her child, all the while still like being a boss and amazing at her job and making safe cars for people and like getting people where they need to go safely. So like it's about the American dream, but like in the guise of Black people. So yeah, I that's one of the shows that's really close to my heart. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. And hearing about that character, I'm like, it makes so much sense. Black women, it's like we always just get things done and work so hard and take care of ourselves and take care of the ones we love. Like that. I really check out that play. Like it sounds.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, you'll be able to. I mean, you can order it online, but you also, when it comes to Broadway, make sure you check it out.
You too, whoever's watching, Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, Skeleton Crew, definitely.
So that was like a perfect segue actually into my next question. I wanted to ask you about how you think who you are as a person, as a Black woman, like impacts your artistry. Like how do you think it makes you different?
Something I feel like as a Black person, there is a level of depth and understanding we have that is like centuries old, like that is inherited, right? Like in terms of like the struggle, like, I think we all have this innate understanding of the struggles that our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers have had. Like we don't have to guess and say, I wonder what they've been through. Like there's something in our blood and in our DNA that gets it. Like, so this movement that we had in 2020, there's an understanding already of, what it must have been like in the 60s, or what it must have been like even before that. In terms of, and the trauma is something that we're still wearing on ourselves every day. So I think there's something about being a Black actor that comes with another gravitas that I think some other cultures may not have.
Yeah.
So like I just noticed like when I see Black actors enroll, like there's just like a color, like no pun intended, but there's like a flavor to it that it's like, some other people don't have, because if you don't understand that struggle, your work is a little bit lighter, it's a little bouncier, but like there's like another level of flavor, I think, to our work. So I think that's what it is. But I also know that I'm always approaching my work through the lens of purpose. Like there's Ruben Santiago-Hudson, who amazing actor. He just wrote the screenplay for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which was on Netflix. Yeah, but so good. He was the director of Skeleton Crew. But he always says that Black people's art is never random. Like you see random work of other people all the time. Like, what is this show about? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what? Yeah. you made this just because you got some money. But Black people, we don't do random stuff. We don't make random art because our lives are meaningful, because we don't necessarily always get the luxury of not creating a message with something that we do, or wanting to like make it as excellent as possible. So I think that's kind of what it is. Like when I do something, it's always, oh, okay, even if I do this show that, let's say, maybe I don't like or I don't love the role, I know what my responsibility is to a young Black girl looking at me, or to my little cousins, or to my family. Even if I'm doing this thing that seems random, it's not just because I want to be seen. It's because like there's a higher purpose, because I want to open a door for somebody else coming behind me, or I'm doing this to get just some money so that I can help to finance this thing for a greater cause. So I think that's what's always in the back of my mind. It's never just to try to get some level of notoriety. It's always for something greater. So I think that's the difference.
I love your answer. I totally agree. I think it's just we have like an innate spirituality. It's like we know there's more than just us. And what you're saying about
Yeah.
yes, I know what
Mhm.
you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, so I love
Yeah, no, but no, I think we understand that we don't have the luxury of not trying to open the door for somebody else, because the door has been closed for us for so long. Um, so like even, those who may not do it, I think, there still is an understanding that it would actually be better if you did. So yeah, I'm always, just wanting to help to play my part in terms of like um bettering our station in life, making the pregnant, let's say, young Black girl walking down the street know that her options are actually greater. Like we didn't talk about it, but again, like aside from, acting, I also am a hair wig designer.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. So uh just as an actress, like what I found is going into shows, there were times where there would be no one who was able to do my castmates' hair at theaters. And it was like, that's strange. Like, why at this point do you not have relationships with even a hair salon or a hairstylist in your area? Why are you not making accommodations for us when we come into your theaters? And I remember like the first professional job I had outside of grad school, my castmate needed cornrows and there was nobody at the theater to do her cornrows. And we only get in theater, you get one day off. Monday is your day off. So she was going to have to travel back to Brooklyn. We were out of town. We were in South Jersey. She was going to have to travel back to Brooklyn on her day off. But that journey, that travel time, like just to get there probably would have been 3 hours just to get back. Then you need your hair done. Then you got to travel 3 hours. So you don't get a day
That's
off.
not a day off. Yeah.
That's not a day off. Yeah. And it's not fair. But that has been the culture in theater. Like for a long time, theaters never even considered that. Costume designers never even considered that. But it also is because so many of the heads of these theaters, or all of the heads of these theaters for the most part, are not Black people. So, they're not considering like all of these things, but Black actors have complained and have understood it for, years. And have realized, oh, I have to figure this out myself. So that's why she's trying to figure out how to get back to Brooklyn on her one day off. And it was stressing her out. And I was like, girl, I'll do your cornrows for you. That's not my job. I wasn't getting paid to do it, which is shenanigans too. But I still wanted to support my sister in that. So from then on, actually before that, but definitely from there, I realized, wait a minute, like I know how to do this thing and I want to provide support for actors. So let me do it. And like slowly but surely, actors would call me and say, hey, Nikiya, the theater is saying there's no budget for hair, but I need my hair done. Can you do my hair? And ultimately they would just, pay me to do their hair. or they would give my information to the costume designer and say, hey, can you call Nikiya and see if she can do it? And the reason that is because when I say there's no budget for hair, usually in theater, if there is a show that they know is going to need wigs, so that's probably a period show. So if the show is set in the 1920s or the show is set in the 1950s, it's like, oh yeah, we're probably going to need wigs. Or if it's a really an avant-garde show and it's like the hair has to be really particular, we're going to need wigs. But if it's a contemporary show, let's say set in the 90s, 2000s, and contemporary styles are going to use, oftentimes they're thinking, oh, we can just use the actor's hair, right? So that's why they would not put a hair budget in it. But when you have Black actors whose hair is natural and the weather can change the state of your hair, just like you wake up, you think you have amazing curls, and by the end of the day, your hair is out to here. You can't just trust that you can use the actor's hair. But I think theaters haven't known that because actors have figured it out on their own for so long, and now there's a shift happening. But ultimately, actresses would reach out to me or pass on my name, and slowly but surely, theaters would start to call me to do hair and wig design for a show, or to style an actor's hair, and then costume designers would reach out to me. So I ultimately became a multi-hyphenate actress and hair wig designer. And it wasn't something that I was necessarily specifically trying to do. It was that I just wanted to help my sisters because it felt like there's no reason why you shouldn't have this support. So that's what I do now aside from acting. And I'm also starting to give education to non-BIPOC wig supervisors and theaters, just like to let them know, okay, this is when you have an actor of color come into your space, this is how you need to support them. These are the products, these are the conversations you need to have to even understand where you have to start. Even if you're going to create or build a wig for an actor of color, you need to, there are still things you need to know, because if this actor comes in the first day of rehearsal with box braids, you need to determine, okay, is this going to be your wig prep for the show? If it's box braids, how are you going to get this wig over the box braid? You need to figure out, okay, do we need to pay somebody to take these box braids out? Like, what is the state of your hair? What is your normal wig prep? Just like all of these things. Or if you want them to use their natural hair, what is the upkeep for it? You can't expect them. I think oftentimes they've expected us to, if you're going to use your natural hair, then you just do it. But you don't know that we're up for 5 hours at night twisting, dry. I got to wash it. I got to do this. Then I have to wait till the morning for it to dry and hope that it does the thing that I want it to do. Exactly. So yeah. What'd you say?
I said, it's like, where's the support? They need to be providing the support. Yeah.
That's exactly it. There has not been support. It's been actors doing the job of an actor and the job of a stylist. And that's not really fair unless you are providing, like you said, support for them to feel like they're held in that, and not like spent, I'm learning lines, I'm building a character, and now I have to go home and be up till 2 a.m. doing my hair. Like, that's not fair.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Wow. So Nikiya, do you have like a website or an email or like make your wigs? I'll definitely put that in the description box too.
Sure. So my website is Act.tress.hair.com. And yeah, my email is Act.tress.hair at gmail.com. So yeah, people can reach out to me, for multiple reasons, anybody that has any inquiries. And I also do, wigs for actors, like also just like for auditions. If it's like, hey, I want something that replicates my hair, but I don't want to have to fuss with my hair or over manipulate my hair. I might want a wig that is similar to my hair texture so that I can just like pop it on at the last minute. So like those are things that I do as well.
Oh, that is so good. I'm so happy that you're working with the different theaters and costume designers to get this more normalized. Like Black people and people of color should not feel like, oh, they don't know how to do my hair, so I just have to do it on my own. That's not good enough. That's not good enough for us. So
exactly.
You're champion. Change. Yes. Yes. Okay. So my last question for you, Nikiya, is what keeps you inspired? I know you have to give a lot as an actor, like you are performing, you have to, have certain energy levels depending on the role. So what do you think helps you to keep going and be inspired with your creative work?
Wow, I would say God is like the number one
Yeah.
because there are so many times that just like even in terms of like failures, like it's even like as an actress and a hair wig designer, there have been times where I have failed and not done the job I was hoping to do or wanted to do something better or wanted, or even in terms of hair, like wanting to like make sure like a client was happy. And it's like, oh, whatever, for whatever circumstances, it did not work out. And trying to like figure out, okay, does that mean that I need to stop? Does that mean that, oh, I need to just let somebody else do it? Or is there still a space for me? And I think this level of understanding how failure can actually be a win is the thing that I am like learning and working through. Like I remember Jay-Z saying something to the effect of, I've learned more from failure than I have from success. I don't know how to, it's something to the fact that I don't know how to learn from success. And I get it because failure actually shows you all the ways in which you need to actually improve. When it's a success, it's like, oh, okay, great, that worked. Let me keep going. I'm still just like doing it the same way. But when you do something and then fall down, it's like, oh, okay. Now I get the things that I need to improve on. So, but also failure does like put you in front of like a mirror and say and ask you, okay, are you going to move forward or are you going to go back? Like, are you going to quit now or are you going to like take courage and go ahead? Are you willing to actually learn from the thing and be humble enough to say, all right, like that happened and let me now forge forward. And also just like the trusting of God that like even though it seems like a failure on this end, that it's possible that that failure could be a setup to build you to be stronger. Because like there is this feeling of like on like let's say social media, everybody look like they winning. Like so, like if you fail, like there's a feeling of, or if it doesn't seem like you're doing what that person's doing or that person's doing, it feels like okay, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I should quit. So like this feeling of like, oh, it doesn't matter what the voices are. It doesn't matter what the images are that I see, that it seems like this person's winning or like, oh, you should be doing it like this. Listening to the voice of God and trying to like get all of the other voices out of the way is I think something that I'm working on because I feel like the world is set up to convince you that you are not good enough at every turn.
Yes.
So what are you going to listen to? Like the thing, is it going to be the thing that you feel like God put in your spirit? And also remember, and I'm talking to myself and remembering the why of it. Like, okay, if you decided you're going to do it, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for the validation of people, or are you doing it because you want to offer something to the world? So like that's the journey. Like even as long as I've been acting or doing hair and wig design, it still is the constant, okay, why? What are you doing here? Like, how are you helping? Or is this about you? Or is this about validation? And just trying to like determine like what are the things you listen to and what are the things you don't. But for me, it's like, okay, I want to be pleasing to God. Do I feel like this was pleasing to God? If so, okay, it's okay to keep going. Did I do this for the validation of somebody else? And when they said I sucked, do I want to quit or not? Like what is that meter? So I'm trying like to do my best to like let God be the voice and let those people around me who really mean something to me be the voice and the guide also, like those people who are my champions and know like the purpose behind my life and behind what I want to do. So like the small circle of people who can be encouragers, who can also be the voice of God on the earth. So yeah.
Ooh, you are really inspiring me. Thank you so much for just sharing your perspective because I faced a lot of rejection too, especially with like career and different corporate jobs I was trying to go for. And
Mhm.
for a while, I was like, well, I really want to get to another level in my career, but I don't really know what I want. And that was a really big inspiration for me, even starting this channel, because I'm really like passionate about self love. Like that's been a very big journey for me. And thank God through like getting closer to God, it's been a lot easier. But I feel like a really big desire to like share that with others and to encourage other people to feel that way about themselves. And just
Mhm.
hearing you talk about like rejection, I'm like, wow, well, what if I would have gotten that high paying corporate job? You know, I might have never started this channel and who knows, like,
Totally.
you know what I mean? So I think just like you said, like rejection a lot is redirection or protection.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
you're meant
Yeah,
for something else, and it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you or you're not good enough. It's just there's something different that's better for you.
definitely. And I think that's so real. Also, like when you get that big corporate job or you get the whatever it is, it also comes with, when they say new levels, new devils. And
Mhm.
it's like, dang, if I would have got it, would I have been prepared for all that it came with?
Yes.
You just never know, again, like you said, what God could be protecting you from and building you for like the next season. It's like, no, don't worry, I got you. But like there's just some building that we and refining we have to do so that you are good when you get there.
Yes. Ooh, I feel so encouraged. Thank you, Nikiya.
Me too. Thank you.
I'm so happy you did this with me. This was really
Yes,
wonderful, like really getting to know you more through the interview.
yes, absolutely. Thank you. No, I appreciate you inviting me on and congratulations again on the channel. And I wish it like much success for real.
Thank you. Congratulations for all your roles, and I wish you much success as well too. Nikiya, it has been absolutely wonderful speaking with you. I feel so uplifted, and I hope whoever else is watching feels the same way. Once again, I'm going to put Nikiya's information in the description box if you want to reach out about her wigs or other acting inquiries or anything of that nature. But yeah, this has been phenomenal. Thank you for coming on the channel.
No, thank you. This has been awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Bye.